lawnmower safety with Darrell and Darryl. Here's Darrell. Darrell knows safety is important. And here's Darrell's friend Darrell. Darrell doesn't care about safety. Darrell doesn't follow the rules. Darrell doesn't care. Darrell knows with proper planning, he'll get the job done safely and quickly. Here, Darrell's inspecting the height of his grass to determine if he needs to bag it or he needs to discharge it out the side. It looks like Darrell's decided he needs to discharge it out the side of his mower, that the grass is too high to mulch. So Darrell knows that proper safety is the key. So Darrell installs the guard for the side discharge. Then Darrell installs the safety for when the bagger is not in use. Darrell knows proper safety is the key. Darrell also knows that checking the handle is also proper safety procedure. Darrell also checks his gas cap, his oil cap, makes sure his wheels are secure, and Darrell's ready to begin his grass cutting. Darrell begins to mow his lawn. Darrell knows planning and logical thinking goes a long way to getting the job done quickly and safely.
Hi, I'm Samuel Flenner. I'll be going over OSHA regulations CFR 1910.241 and 1910.243. In these regulations, we'll talk about pneumatic powered tools, airline hoses, high velocity tools, and circular saws.
In this first section, we'll be covering several air hose safety features. Here are the few OSHA regulations that will be covered in this section that entail operating tools at the proper pressure, being able to adjust that pressure, and making sure your tools can be properly connected.
Before we talk about high velocity tools, let's talk more about the pressure system. First off, you must make sure every tool, the airline, and the pressure regulator can reach the proper operating pressure. You will find this on the air hose, usually stamped on, but if it is worn away, you can usually find it in the owner's manual, as well as the tool you intend to use. This one actually does not have that labeled on the tool, so you'd have to go to the owner's manual. Next, you want to make sure everything is in good condition. Make sure you have the right fittings as well. This hose is in very good condition with no bubbles or frays. The hose should join up correctly and connect to where you don't have any risk of it coming apart from the tool. And you can actually get a spring fitting that will connect both to the tool as well as the hose, which if your quick release accidentally gets activated, it'll still keep your tool from popping away from you. Next, you will set your pressure regulator to your desired operating pressure. Then, you will connect your airline to this pressure system and you're ready to go.
Darrell's going to be out of town for the next week and he needs his grass cut by his good buddy Darrell.
Hello?
Hey Darrell, I need you to cut my grass next week while I'm out of town. Do you think you can do that? I really need your help right now.
Yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah.
Well, you do know how to use equipment safely, don't you?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Darryl thinks Darryl's stupid for worrying about safety. Come over next week and cut my lawn for me then.
Now we're going to go over several OSHA regulations in the construction of high-velocity tools. These regulations help protect us from flying debris and permit proper operation so that we can use the tool without it accidentally discharging, or even protect us from possibly dropping the tool and it going off. These are more in the construction of the tool, but good for the operator to keep in mind in case of malfunction.
Now I'm going to tell you how to operate your high velocity tool. For example, I will be using a high velocity staple gun that is run on compressed air. First off, let me explain that it is your employer's responsibility that his employees have been properly trained for the tools they are to use. This does not mean the employees can walk around and pick up any tool they want and use it. They must first request the proper training. Now, a high velocity tool has a standard guard of 3.5 inches around the area the projectile will be fired from. As you can see, this one does not have such guard. That is because the manufacturer still met a standard that as long as when fired, there is no debris that is projected from the area that can cause harm to the operator or those around, then the guard can be accepted. There are also some other safety standards that must be implemented in these tools, such as when being loaded, it must not be able to be fired. So when you pull back this guard, or safety system as you might say, to load it, all the staples come back and it cannot be fired. On top of this system, there are a few other safety factors. In order to fire it, there must be 2 actions to take place in order to fire. One is you have to press down at least 5 pounds, and then you can pull the trigger. This also allows you to line up to where you want to fire without accidentally discharging. Another thing to keep in mind is after you've put together your tool and you've been operating and you leave your workspace, you don't really want to just walk away without taking it apart. If you do so, you might come back and actually forget that your nail gun is still in operation and get distracted, and you never know what might happen.
Darryl checks Darryl's yard to see how high the grass really is. Darryl can tell the grass is high, but he doesn't want to discharge it out the side chute. He wants to mulch it so he doesn't have to rake. So Darryl takes the side chute guard off and tosses it to the side. Darryl attempts to install the bagger guard, but gives up very quickly and just tosses it to the side also. Darryl checks the handle and notices it's loose, but he doesn't care because Darryl doesn't follow the rules. Notice how Darryl cuts grass. Darryl doesn't care. Darryl doesn't think what he's doing. Darryl notices the mower's not running right. He knows it's because the grass is too tall to be mulching. Darryl continues to try to mulch the yard, but the mower keeps stalling out. So Darryl has to stop and clean out from underneath the mower so it'll run. The mower stalls out again. Darryl's getting frustrated now. Darryl cleans out from underneath the mower once again. The mower stalls out again, but now Darryl's had enough. He's frustrated. Darryl digs through Darryl's outfitting to find something that'll help him. Darryl finds a bungee cord. I wonder what Darryl's got in mind for that bungee cord. Darryl's decided he can strap down the kill lever on the motor so the motor won't stop if he lets go of the handle. Watch out, Darryl. You're in for some trouble.
OSHA requires different safety methods to be implemented on circular saws such as guards and switches. We will also discuss some safety factors to keep in mind while operating a portable saw.
Now I'd like to tell you a few different things about circular saws and switches found on different portable saws. First off, with the circular saw, if the blade diameter is greater than 2 inches, it is then required to have an upper guard and a lower guard. The key thing about this is after you've finished cutting, the lower guard must automatically retract over the blade. This protects both the user, people around you, and if you were to set the tool down, keeps it from running away while the blade is still spinning. Another thing to keep in mind while using a circular saw is make sure you have the proper depth set. If you are too deep, you could hit a piece of metal, or if you're too shallow, you might have to make your cut again. Now, a few things about switches found on different portable saws is whether it's electric, hydraulic, pneumatic chainsaws, or percussion tools, without a positive accessory, it means it must have a constant pressure switch. This means the switch must automatically turn off the tool once it has been released. A gas chainsaw is virtually the same thing except for it's just called a constant throttle switch, but it does the same task. Another thing to keep in mind is while you're cutting, you want to make sure the object to cut is secure, clamped down, or there's no danger of it moving. Otherwise, there's a good chance you'll cut it and accidentally hurt yourself.
Darryl wishes Darryl would have followed the rules and the regulations and done the job safely. Now Darryl's going to pay for the rest of his life.